Oh, Carmen.
I gotta take my glasses. I've got a lot of reflection on them tonight. But then I can't read my agenda.
Are we pledging?
We will pledge, yes.
Okay.
Okay, so Rob, we ready to go?
Yes, we're ready to go when you are.
Okay, thanks. Okay, it being 7:31, we'll start.
Okay.
Good evening and welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Village of Larchmont. It is Monday, July 20th. Give me just a moment and we will. Uh-oh. Sorry, folks. I'm having technical difficulties on my end. We will say the Pledge of Allegiance. Please join me. Ooh. Pledge allegiance
to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
with
with liberty and justice for all.
Liberty and justice for all.
It's the thought that counts. We don't get any better at that. This is going to be, I think, a relatively brief meeting this evening. We have a short agenda. We will most likely be setting a board work session within the next 7 to 8 days. That will be up on the village calendar no later than Wednesday of this week, so that we can put together a more fulsome agenda. We're waiting for some information on a couple of different items. So I would like to start off with some good news. Why not? Because we've had a really bad few months, but some happiness and joy entered the life of one of our very valued and long-standing residents of the village of Larchmont. Happens to also be the village's attorney, and he became a grandfather for the first time, and he welcomed Emily Grace into the Stout family. We congratulate you, Jim, and she's really beautiful. We can't wait to have the opportunity to all see her in person and Google her, and you know, it'll be great. I'm sure you're enjoying having her. How's the family? How's the mom and dad?
They're doing great. Thank you. Thanks for those words. And yeah, she's a blessing, and the family is doing wonderfully. Thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you. We have one appointment this evening. This is to the planning board. One of our members, Alan Kasanoff, his term expired, and he is going to stay on as an alternate member. So we're going to appoint him to be an alternate member of the planning board. That will then give us 2 alternate members, which is a good thing to have. Alternate members receive all of the documentation that the planning board members do, and they're always ready to step in whenever a quorum is needed or there's some other reason for needing to have them step in. The planning board is now 5 members, 5 permanent members, 5 regular members, and then we'll have 2 alternates. So I'm going to seek a motion to appoint Alan Kasanoff as an alternate member of the Village of Larchmont Planning Board.
So moved.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Great. Thank you. And thank you to Alan for not only his service previously as a member, but for being willing to be placed on the alternate membership. Next up on our agenda, number 3, we have a presentation on Westchester Power from Sustainable Westchester. And we have with us this evening Carmen Santos, who is going to be doing that presentation. So she's been unmuted, so I'm going to turn it over to Carmen And let us know, Carmen, if you have any documents or images that you'd like to share on our screen. That's fine. You should be able to do so.
Thank you, Mary Walsh. I do have a presentation that we've prepared for this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and share it now. Just going to go to my screen. And I always find that the Zoom is usually right on top of the menu. Well, thank you everyone for having me here. I work for Sustainable Westchester and I support the Westchester Power Program. For those of you who do not know what Sustainable Westchester is, we're a nonprofit consortium of local Westchester County governments. And our goal is to facilitate sustainability programming so that we can have a better future within our communities. Out of the 45 municipalities within the county, 44 of them and the county itself participate in Sustainable Westchester. Tonight, we're here to speak about Westchester Power, but we do work in other areas, such as in the renewable energy side. We have a community solar program where program participants get financial benefits for supporting solar development. We also are conducting a Heat Smart campaign where we are helping residential and commercial property owners evaluate their properties to find solutions for their heating and cooling systems. In clean transportation, we're working with electric vehicles and working to secure the infrastructure for charging them. In the zero waste zone, our biggest highlight is the Recycle Right app, which municipalities use to upload their recycling schedules. This helps them improve their waste management and reduce costs. If you're interested in learning more about this, please let me know and I'd be happy to share more information. And so we're here to speak about Westchester Power, which is one of our largest program in Sustainable Westchester. Basically, what we do is we aggregate residents and small businesses to buy electricity together. And this helps us set criteria that energy companies must meet in order to supply us energy. And in turn, we have a positive environmental effect. 27 municipalities participate in Westchester Power. 24 of them have chosen green supply or 100% renewable energy as their default supply. And we are very happy to say that Larchmont has chosen green supply as their default supply. And the biggest reason we do this is because of the environmental impact we have. So since the start of the program-wide, we've mitigated 660,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to saying that we've taken 142 cars off the road for 1 year. And Larchmont has contributed to this by helping us mitigate 17,000 metric tons of carbon dioxide, which is equivalent to 3,600 cars off the road in 1 year. The program also has additional benefits in that we are a vetted community program. We are not an ESCO. We do work with ESCOs to secure renewable energy, but program participants, that is residents and small businesses, do not have to enter into any contracts. They do not have to pay any fees for entering or exiting the program. There are no surprises in the rates they will face. And we'll notify them ahead of time when the price will change. It's just when we go into a new contract, like the one we will be doing in 2021. And we set a not to exceed bid cap that is informed by research in the energy market and past historical utility rates. And also the municipality approved of this not to exceed bid cap. And our large customer base helps us secure competitive prices, and our fixed rates help us have a buffer from the energy market volatility. So if you're not with Westchester Power and you're buying your electricity through the utility, your rate varies every month because the energy market varies daily. So we offer 24/7 customer support. We are available by phone, we are available by email. We go out into the communities to educate members of the community about our program about green energy. We also help them get out of predatory ESCO contracts. We spend as much time as we need with them, and we provide all these resources in Spanish as well. So again, the biggest reason we're doing this is to try to mitigate climate change. If you've noticed, we had a really mild winter. We barely saw any snow. And in New York State has set aggressive goals for our climate actions. And your participation within this program helps us offset hundreds of thousands of metric tons of carbon dioxide and meet these goals that New York State has set for us. And also, as a municipality, you're able to participate in clean energy community certification applications, which position you for grants. And what your biggest thing you've done is you've helped us have a seat in the table in the energy space. Developers are speaking with us. So we are asking for renewable energy. We're asking for different rates. And really, you basically have helped us secure more choice within the energy market. And also, you're helping us secure a more clean energy future. So financially, since the start of 2019, we have been behind the utility, but throughout the length of the program, we have been ahead of the utility. That is, we have saved money. Your current rate is 7.96 cents per kilowatt hour for 100% renewable energy. And the numbers we are seeing here, and I'm about to discuss, are a comparison of this rate to the utility, which only offers a fraction of renewable energy. And so for contract 2, since the start of 2019, we've been behind the utility at about $255,000 in Larchmont. But throughout the length of the program, we've been ahead by $113,000. And this has helped us avoid 17,000 tons of carbon dioxide. A lot of people like to look at these numbers on a per account per month basis because it relates to their monthly bills. So for the green residential accounts, we've been behind at 12.52 cents for contract 2. And since the launch, we have saved about 2.39 cents per month per account. And for the green commercial, we've been behind at around $8.57 since contract 2, but since the launch, we've been ahead around $5. As I mentioned, the utility rate is not 100% renewable energy, but our supply is. And when we compare our supply rate to what is available in the market for Westchester County, we found that one of the lowest available prices for the same contract terms, that is 24 months, 100% renewable energy in the area of Larchmont, one of the lowest prices we found is about 1 cent higher than our price. And the only other option is about 2 times our price. So really, your participation has helped us obtain an affordable green energy supply. And in Larchmont, residents and small businesses have saved together about $113,000 and mitigated 17,000 tons of carbon dioxide. Also, our program is a foundation to our other programming, including one of our programs called Community Solar. In Community Solar, you subscribe to a solar development project, and then credits get applied to your bill. You then pay for these credits at a discounted price, and overall, you end up saving up to 10% from your utility bill. Right now, you're able to do this whether you're in Westchester Power or not. You have to, however, do it as a sign-up basis. Moving forward, we're hoping to incorporate community solar into Westchester Power and offer these financial benefits to all Westchester Power customers on an opt-out basis. We are able to do this because the PSC has allowed programs like Westchester Power to offer community solar on an opt-out basis. And they've also asked Con Ed to create a consolidated billing system where consumers now would have to pay only in using one bill as opposed to two bills, where you're paying for the solar credits and your utility bill. So this would really simplify the process a lot. And we are hoping to offer this first to low-income customers, and then eventually phase in all of our Westchester Power customers. We're also testing new programming and technology. We currently have a residential demand response pilot program where program participants, or pilot participants, get financial payments for reducing their energy use during peak hours. We are also in conversations with companies to bring renewable energy directly to Westchester County. Right now, we participate in the clean energy space by buying renewable energy credits, which match our local consumption in this grid and is generated somewhere else within New York State. We're also testing new technologies in our facility. We are setting up solar panels that would channel the energy to an innovative battery system that would be then used to charge electric vehicles. And we're doing all of this to be a green facility, and we're doing all of these programs to learn from them as well, because we want to replicate these things within our communities. And we're only able to do this because of your participation in Westchester Power. Our large customer base has helped us be involved more in this clean energy environment. And we're asking for your continued support as we go into a new contract in 2021. To take you back, in 2016, you entered the first contract. In 2019, we entered the second contract. And in 2021, we'll be entering the third contract. We will have the same contract goals. We will ask for 2 supply rates: basic supply, green supply. We will ask for fixed rates. We will set a not to exceed bid price that your municipality approves of. And we will remain committed to New York State renewable energy credits. Some of the milestones that are coming up in August, we hope that the municipalities signed a memorandum of understanding, which outlines the criteria for suppliers that suppliers need to meet in order to participate in the competition to supply us energy. We will then send out requests for proposals in early September. We will evaluate those bids and award the winning contract. And we will continue to do outreach. In early November, we will send out notification letters. In the notification letters, you'll find our logo for Sustainable Westchester, your municipality's seal. It'll also tell you who the winning contractor, and it will also tell us what the rates are, what is your default supply, how to opt out of the program, and how to switch from supply options. If you choose to remain within Westchester Power, you don't have to do anything. Starting the first meter read date, starting January 1st, you will automatically be enrolled in the program. And we will continue to do outreach throughout all of our communities. And if you want us to go and communicate with one of your community groups, please let us know. You can email us at info@sustainablewestchester.org, and we would be very happy to do this. And thank you, Mayor Walsh, and everyone for listening to this presentation. And I would like to open the floor for questions. Oh, sorry, I can't hear you.
Got it. Yeah, I muted myself during your presentation so that you wouldn't hear my household noise. I thank you for your presentation. I have 2 questions that come to mind as you were speaking. The first is really frequently residents get mailings from different ESCOs.
Mm-hmm.
trying to get them to switch and using confusing language as to, you know, their clean energy solutions and various, and then the questions start flowing always on the local Facebook group. You know, what is this? How do I get my energy? And, you know, that whole explanation has to start again. I think that being able to provide really clear informational materials that can be distributed to all of the customers would be very, very helpful. And to the point of, you know, showing this is what the envelope from Sustainable Westchester looks like. This is how your bill is going to come. And, you know, making it as clear as possible, because there are a lot of ESCOs out there that are trying to flip accounts, and they don't always make it clear, you know, what the terms are and who they actually represent.
Yes, just to add to that, so in all of the communication you would receive via mail from Westchester Power, there always will be a municipality seal in it, everything that we send out. And we have different resources available. We've created videos on YouTube where you can watch and see how you should read your bill to figure out whether you're in Westchester Power or if you're not. Also, I guess we are happy to come to the different community groups, to the libraries, leave flyers within libraries if you'd like us to do that. And in order for people to be informed, for them to be like aware of what the program is like. And also probably in August, if not early September, we're gonna do a lunch and learn in Larchmont in the Mamaroneck area. And we will send out maybe an invitation towards your inbox, and you could share it maybe potentially within your municipality website. And because we are really happy to speak with anyone. You can call us at any point. You have any questions, we're happy to answer. You want to learn about renewable energy, you want to learn what does it mean to have like a clean solution, or do you want to learn about what does this rate mean, or just anything you can think of, we're happy to take your calls.
Great, thank you, Carmen. I would appreciate, I think flyers at the library, although they're not fully operational yet, they have limited hours, but that's a great place for people to be able to pick up that information. And if you could send me a link to the videos that you have, and we can post those up and share them occasionally through our newsletter and website. The second thing that I wanted you to touch on, you did briefly, but a little bit more. What is the effect of all of these municipalities joining together for green energy in this way? What is the effect on the development of the green resources, green energy resources within New York State? Is that helping bring about additional production of green energy in the state? And, you know, how is that really a beneficial goal?
Yes. Okay, so by your participation in this program, you're immediately having an effect in the generation of more renewable energy. As I mentioned, we don't have direct supply here in Westchester County, but in other parts of the state, there's enough space to put in solar development, to put in wind farms. And by you participating in this program, you're saying, I want to choose green. I want to take this option. And you're telling the market, hey, this is a product your consumers want. And also, we were the pilot, then we were the first program, and then now you have a lot of different areas that are starting to create their own community choice aggregation program, just something very similar like ours, like in Long Island and upstate New York. So you've had a tremendous impact just by doing this. And in addition to this, by you participating within this program, you're helping Westchester Power enable other programs, such as zero waste programs, such as community solar program we have, the clean transportation programs that we're trying to push forward, the demand response, which would mean your conservation of energy and resources. So really, you're having a tremendous impact by participating in this program.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions for Carmen on the Westchester Power Program or anything else that Sustainable Westchester is doing or working on? We apply, it seems like they don't. We applied for some of the state grants for electric vehicle charging stations. I have no idea if those applications are being processed at the moment and what's happening with those grants at this time, given the financial situation here.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, hopefully at some point they'll move along and we'll get to that next step as well here in Larchmont.
Yes, and if you have any questions within the renewable energy space or anything related to sustainability, feel free to contact us as resources. We have an in-house person that is really good in terms of clean transportation systems. So we are really available for you because we are you.
Right.
So, yeah, just contact us at any time. We'd be happy to help with whatever we can.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you coming on this evening, and I assume we'll be receiving an email soon from either you or Dan on the MOU.
Yes, we will
Okay.
follow up with an MOU. Before that, we'll have a meeting for setting the criteria for the MOU.
Mm-hmm. All right, very good. Thank you so much for joining us this night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carmen.
Thank you.
Have a good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
You too.
Unfortunately, we jumped too quickly from the item number 2, appointments, committees and commissions, and we left off a very important appointment. So I'm going to turn this over to Trustee Bauer because this is a position on the library board, and she is the liaison to the library board.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mhm.
We would like to appoint Celeste Sharp as the new library board member. She has been a member of the Friends of the Library for quite a while now, has actually been their liaison to the library board itself, so she's been participating in a lot of our meetings. She has a fabulous background. She's an attorney and has a lot of experience in the area of construction, which, given this is the library and it's a very old building and several buildings combined, it seems like there's regularly construction projects going on, and we have some big ones coming up, and we think that she would be incredibly helpful with that as well. So we're very excited to have her join the board.
Absolutely. We had a nice conversation, Trustee Bauer, myself, and the library board chair, Lauren Gottfried, with Celeste, and she was impressive in her dedication and knowledge of the library, and I think you're right that she'll bring a lot to the table in terms of the capital projects the library has on board for the next year. Would you like to make a motion to appoint Celeste Sharp to the library board?
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Celeste Sharp to the library board, and I need a second, please.
No, you need to move.
Didn't I just?
She just moved.
I moved.
Okay.
She needs a
And
second.
you can have a second.
Finally got it right.
Very good. Now we have a second from Carol. All those in favor?
Aye.
Hi.
Aye. Very good. Thank you. And thank you to Celeste for stepping up and joining the library board. And now I'm going to move on to item number 4, which is the police chief's report. So Chief Polway, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you, ma'am. The first item on my report deals with the new legislation that was passed in New York City, further restricting police actions. So I would like to begin by reading a letter from the president of the Westchester County Chiefs of Police Association, Chris McNerney, and it's addressed to the New York City Police Commissioner, Dermot Shea, regarding police actions taken by Westchester law enforcement officers within the confines of New York City. Dear Commissioner Shea, as you know, the police departments of Westchester County continuously rely on you and the members of the New York City Police Department for support. Your support comes often and in many different law enforcement areas. It is with much resentment that I must inform you that we will be unable to reciprocate due to recent actions of your City Council and Mayor. The Westchester County Chiefs of Police Association is discouraging all Westchester law enforcement officers from taking law enforcement action in the city of New York. This position is precipitated by the recent legislation proposed by the New York City Council and signed by Mayor de Blasio that criminalizes the act of putting a knee on the back or chest of a violently resisting, non-compliant individual when effecting an arrest. We support the prohibition on chokeholds that was recently passed in Albany, but the recent expansion of this prohibition signed into law by Mayor de Blasio contradicts defensive tactics and common sense. As you know, it is the goal of every law enforcement officer to receive voluntary compliance when taking law enforcement action. Although it is very unpopular in the current political consensus, officers are too often required to use force in the furtherance of their police duties. It is reasonable, foreseeable, and often necessary that a police officer place weight on the torso of a violently resisting individual to attempt to gain control therein. We cannot place our officers in a position that will subject them to a year in jail when they are forced to gain compliance from a violently resisting individual. These violent encounters should be frowned upon by all of our elected officials, but none have been brave enough to rise above politics to condemn this violence on the civilian side. The flawed legislation passed by the New York City Council and Mayor de Blasio jeopardizes the safety of the public and police officers. To that end, we regretfully take this position. This by no means is a reflection of your department or the hardworking men and women of the NYPD. We realize that your personnel and the residents of New York City are seeing the consequences of the current political consensus. We pray that the violence ends and the healing begins soon. And as a result, it was a unanimous decision on behalf of all the chiefs to draft the letter. We did so after much deliberation. And as a result of the new legislation signed into law by Mayor de Blasio last week, I am advising all members of the Larchmont Police Department to refrain from taking law enforcement action in New York City. Although every effort is taken to de-escalate and minimize the use of force, it remains a possibility that a police officer's knee may end up on the chest or back of a violent suspect during a scuffle or arrest, especially during a one-on-one situation. Therefore, I will not subject our officers to the threat of a year in jail each time they potentially encounter a violent or mentally ill subject resisting arrest while performing a police action within the confines of New York City. In terms of our enforcement in New York City, it's obviously limited. It really pertains to investigations and warrant execution. So we may have warrants that we execute in the city, or warrants that we've put into the system may pop, and then quite often we would respond to the city to retrieve those individuals. So for the time being, unless the legislation is amended, we are discouraging our members from taking any police action within New York City.
If under that circumstance you just described, is there ever a time in which we would request the New York City Police to bring someone to us versus us sending our officers into the city?
No, it's not their obligation. It's the obligation. So if we enter an arrest warrant into the system, it's the obligation of that agency to now supply the resources to physically go and take the person and bring them into our custody so that they can be brought before a judge to answer the charge.
How often in an average year would you say that circumstance occurs in Larchmont? Is this an infrequent occurrence? Or?
In terms of warrants, potentially 15 to 20 times a year, where individuals that we've entered into the system, we're obligated to go and retrieve. But there are instances where we have, during an investigation, we have identified a suspect that resides in the city, and then we would request a search or an arrest warrant from a judge, and then we would physically take a group into the city in conjunction, working with NYPD resources to secure the individual and bring them back to Westchester County. So between the two instances, probably 25 times a year. So it's not totally uncommon, but it's not something that occurs all the time.
Okay, and a follow-up question.
Yes.
Does the Police Chiefs Association have recommendations for amendments to what has already been passed? In other words, clearly none of us, yourself included, think that it's acceptable for an officer to kneel on the back of someone's neck to the point of death, as we saw in Minneapolis. And I think that's probably the kind of situation this law is trying to curtail. But has there been any thought to recommended alterations so that where absolutely necessary and to protect an officer, such actions may need to be taken? Just asking the question.
Of course, we always believe what happened to Mr. Floyd is unacceptable, and any instance where you would restrict breathing in terms of applying pressure to the neck, either via a chokehold or a knee, is unacceptable at any time. But this legislation goes beyond that, and it really handcuffs the police, because it makes arresting violent individuals much more difficult. Part of the problem with this police reform and a lot of the reform that was passed through New York State is that law enforcement representatives, especially the chiefs, were never invited to the table to discuss our expertise or our recommendations. So these are legislation is being passed by individuals who have never had to arrest someone who is violent, and now you're literally fighting to contain them. Otherwise, somebody's going to get hurt or potentially killed. So I know it's kind of feel good, and maybe it's because of the political climate right now, but it's not a practical piece of legislation. So yes, we would like to sit down and discuss what other options are, what other non-lethal options are, and placing your knee on the back of a suspect, to secure them temporarily is not a lethal tactical move. So we think this really puts police officers at a complete disadvantage. And our responsibility is to obviously the citizens of Larchmont, and my responsibility is to protect our police officers. So this was a unanimous decision, and we've been working with some of the local politicians on the state level to hopefully open the dialogue again, where we can have a seat at the table and discuss possible amendments to what has already been passed, within the city and statewide. And it's unfortunate, because I don't think anybody disagrees that reform is needed or necessary, but I don't believe all the correct stakeholders are being brought together to give us sound legislation that is also practical in its application.
As far as the state laws regarding physical restraint, we'll put it that way, use that term, they've limited it to chokehold. Is that correct? And New York City's law went much broader.
That's exactly right, ma'am. So the ban on chokehold is recognized throughout the state, and I don't think there's a chief in the state that disagrees with that. But New York City has taken it one step further. So I don't know what option we're supposed to use in considering the legislation to be able to restrain a violent individual to take them into custody, to safely take them into custody. And I think that's why we have a problem with this. It's not, we don't want to apply deadly physical force to anybody where it would cause an event like what happened in Minneapolis with Mr. Floyd. So again, that's agreed upon throughout the state. But what New York City does is they really have hampered the ability of the men and women of the NYPD to effectively do their job safely. And that concerns us. So until this is discussed or reformed to some degree, we feel it's better at this time to discourage our members from actively engaging in any law enforcement within the confines of New York City.
Attorney Stout, I just have a little question for you. Insofar as this borders on, if is not squarely in the realm of policy decisions, is the decision wholly in the hands of the chiefs of police, or is it also in the hands of the boards and councils of the towns and villages?
So I wonder if I could have an opportunity to discuss that with the chief
Okay.
in the course of the next few days, and then come back to you with a response, so I get a better understanding of the whole picture.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Okay, Chief, I'm not sure you're finished. You probably have more on your report.
Yes, ma'am. That was, but dialogue is always welcome. These are
Absolutely.
unfolding events. They're constantly changing.
The more we
so-
talk about it, the more we all can understand each other's perspectives and find some common ground. So
Agreed.
I appreciate your willingness to engage and answer my questions.
Absolutely. Thank you, ma'am.
Mhm.
The next item on my report deals with stolen vehicles. Over the last 2 months, there have been several dozen vehicles stolen and hundreds of vehicles broken into throughout Westchester County. There are organized groups coming into different areas to commit these larcenies, and some encounters with police officers have shown these groups to have a propensity for violence with little regard for law enforcement. In almost every instance, the vehicles that were stolen or where property was removed were unlocked. I urge all of our residents to always lock your car and not leave your keys or fobs in your car, and remove any valuables that may entice someone to enter your vehicle. If an area becomes less attractive to a criminal because it is more difficult to commit these types of larcenies, crime patterns have revealed that they will simply move to other areas and counties. Our midnight patrol units will continue to be vigilant in identifying suspicious activity in order to prevent these crimes. And I will just add, and I want everybody please to knock on wood, there have many jurisdictions in Westchester County have been affected, but fortunately we have not. I credit that to our midnight patrols. They're out there doing the job, and they're checking on everything, and they're patrolling the areas, of our village, and we've been fortunate in that regard. But there have been, I know recently in Irvington, in one night they had 30 vehicles broken into and 2 stolen vehicles. So this has been going on for months, and again, these are organized groups, and they have been violent when encountered or confronted, and they're not afraid to run, creating a situation where we may have a pursuit. So these are dangerous individuals. So we just, again, urge everybody to be smart, lock your cars, don't keep your keys and fobs in the car, because so many cars that were stolen, actually, it makes it easy for them. And certainly don't leave anything within view that is of value, because that's going to encourage individuals to come into our community to commit larcenies. The next item on my report, County Executive George Latimer and FEMA encourage preparedness for the 2020 hurricane season. During these unprecedented times, it is important to remember disasters won't wait. As we continue our efforts with the whole of America to respond to and recover from coronavirus, we are also leaning forward and preparing for the upcoming hurricane season. As past hurricane seasons have shown us, it only takes one major storm to impact our community or state and cause widespread damage. COVID-19 may potentially influence your hurricane evacuation and sheltering plans. So the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, is calling on individuals and families across the nation to prepare for the 2020 Atlantic hurricane season, which runs from June 1st through November 30th. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's seasonal outlook for 2020 predicts an above normal hurricane season, but uncertainty about the formation of Atlantic storms makes predicting this season especially difficult. For 2020, NOAA's Climate Prediction Center is forecasting a likely range of 13 to 19 named storms, of which 6 to 10 could become hurricanes, including 3 to 6 major hurricanes. Preparing ahead of a disaster is the responsibility of all levels of government, the private sector, and the public. For more information on how best to prepare for an emergency or severe weather, please go to the websites fema.gov or www.noaa.gov. Speaking of hurricanes, emergency contact. The police department and village would like to be able to contact you in the event of an emergency. So if you have not enrolled to receive the village's mass callings and emails, please visit our website at villageoflarchmont.org and supply us with any contact information that you may have. Social distancing. Just wanted, again, to take a moment to remind everybody that we are still contending with the coronavirus and that physical distancing is important. Crowds amplify the spread of the virus, so please keep a proper distance in any situation when you're out in public. Also, amid the ongoing COVID-19 pandemic, all people in New York are required to wear a mask or face covering when out in public and in situations where social distancing cannot be maintained. There have been complaints of people using our parks and playgrounds without wearing masks, and unfortunately, that puts everybody at risk. We need everyone to show more of an effort to socially distance and to wear a face cover. This is absolutely not business as usual, and please follow the rules or refrain from using our parks. Patrol units have been making a concerted effort to patrol the parks and playgrounds and provide masks for individuals who are not in compliance and advise them of the current health mandates. Flint Park. The police department continues to observe individuals that are using Alma Field without a permit. Unless you obtain a permit, you may not use the field for any purpose. The gate for the field is locked when use is restricted, but individuals continue to climb over the fence, often causing damage. The police department has been removing people without authorization from the field and issuing warnings, but if this type of conduct continues, we'll be forced to begin issuing summonses for any observed violations. To obtain a permit, simply contact Joyce Callahan from the Parks and Recreation Department. Even myself, I've been out driving around the village and I've observed this and encountered individuals. Lieutenant Olson the other night saw approximately 30 teenagers on the field, and the gate was locked, and he went up and he said they were from Harrison and all over the county, and he asked them why they were using the field, and they said the fence was easy to climb over. So that may be a consideration for future planning. He evacuated the park and advised them if they returned, they were subject to a summons. So this is something that is ongoing. And again, we're trying to address it the best we can without issuing summonses at this point. But if it gets problematic to the point where we have to, we certainly will. Leaf blower ban. A reminder that the use of any type of leaf blowers within the confines of the village of Larchmont continues to be strictly prohibited, as outlined in the village emergency order dated April 3rd, 2020, and Village Code Section 195-5, subsection B. Failure to obey and comply with these mandates is punishable by a court appearance ticket and a fine. We are continuing to receive complaints of leaf blower use, and the police department has been attempting to actively educate landscapers about the emergency order and the ordinance, and our enforcement efforts will continue. If you are a homeowner, I would request that you have a conversation with your landscaper about the importance of adhering to the ban so that compliance can be obtained. And finally, see something, say something. I would like to remind everyone to stay vigilant in reporting any suspicious activity that may be observed. If you observe something that may be suspicious, Please do not keep it to yourself. Call the 24-hour New York State Terrorism Tips Line at 866-SAFE-NYS, or call the Larchmont Police Department at 914-834-1000, or simply dial 911. And that concludes my report for this evening, but I'd be happy to answer any questions that anybody has.
Thank you, Chief.
Oh,
Go ahead,
sorry.
Carol.
I do have a question about the Flint Park situation.
Yes,
Chief,
ma'am.
being there without a permit, I would think, is a violation for, you could issue a summons. But is there a step beyond that? Is this an instance of criminal trespass?
It can be criminal trespass because there are signs posted detailing the proper use of the park. And if it's observed that individuals are climbing over and damaging the fence, it could also be considered a criminal mischief. So those are beyond a violation. And that's what we're trying to explain to these teenagers. And essentially they're 16, 17, 18-year-old kids. And they're just looking for a spot to play soccer and get their drills in. And we understand that, but there's a process in place, and they're causing damage to the fence, and it's also degrading the surface of the field. And that's why we have a permit process. So we advise them that they can use it, just follow the guidelines. So as more individuals are educated about it, hopefully more compliance will be obtained. Also, in speaking with Joyce Callahan, as more people begin to use it via the permit system, potentially it should cut down on illegal use of the field. So, but yes, it can go beyond just using the field improperly. It can actually be a criminal trespass or a criminal mischief, to answer your question.
And this is something that's come up during the time of the pandemic where we've been closed down, or is this something that's happened routinely in the past?
I wouldn't say it was routine in the past. Every once in a while, we would get a complaint about it. It certainly seemed to have amplified during the pandemic. And Lieutenant Olson said when he filed the kids out, they asked if they could use the grass field. And he said, of course, so, and then that's where they went. And so maybe they were enlightened, and it'll, encourage them to just not be confronted by the police officers, but now they can use the space that they're permitted to use. So again, I think it's really exaggerated because of the pandemic, and there's fewer places that they can get access to, especially when many of the schools, even the field facilities, were closed to the public. So people were kind of running out of alternatives. But we'll continue to monitor the situation and address it as appropriately as possible.
Thank you, because there have been a number of complaints that have come through the Parks and Trees Committee as well. And I had thought we were posting PEOs there on some occasions. So thanks for bringing this to our attention. Absolutely.
Yes, and they are being posted there, but like many things, we can't maintain a constant presence there. So we're piecemealing it, but trying to do the best we can at this point.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome, ma'am.
And you're continuing your daily walkthrough of the 4 playgrounds in the village of Larchmont as
Yes,
well.
ma'am. All patrol units, it's part of their daily routine now, as per my directive. So they have to document it in their memo books. Supervisor has to acknowledge that they're taking these actions. And it's been, I think, successful. As I think I conveyed to you, I distribute the masks to everybody. I kind of hoarded them in my office. So the officers have been coming to me to get more. So that means they're engaging the community and speaking to them, trying to educate them. And again, I think when you go out and physically speak to them and explain how it's not really about them, but you're jeopardizing everybody potentially. And if you can't use the park properly, maybe then you shouldn't be using the park. And I think we're seeing more compliance as a result of that. So we'll continue our efforts and until all of this subsides or not.
Yeah. Chief, speaking of masks, a resident contacted me to say that at Dog Beach, where there had been a sign encouraging people to wear masks, that the sign is now gone. And they observed maybe half of the people using Dog Beach, and there was quite a large group, didn't have masks on. I don't know. Do you know what happened to the sign that was there? And
I don't, but I can speak to Rick Viteri tomorrow and see if he removed it or if somebody else removed it. But we'll make sure that proper signage is put up so people are aware of the conditions under which they can use the park.
thank you.
You're welcome, sir.
Thank you. I think as we see what's happening in so many other states right now, we should all be learning a lesson about what thoughtless behavior or magical thinking about the virus, that it's not going to affect us or it's gone. What are the ramifications of that kind of behavior? We went through a lot here in New York State and certainly in the New York City and Southern Westchester region to get to the point where we're able to start to go out and open business and participate in some level of social society. And I think that we all have to continue to take the precautions that we know work. We don't know a lot of things. This is a novel virus, and people get a little frustrated, I think, at times. We're all very frustrated with the whole situation, quite honestly. But people get frustrated because, every day there's a new little study here, a new little conversation there. Someone posts a piece of information about the virus spreads this way, it doesn't spread that way. Children are asymptomatic. No, they're not. They're carriers. They're not. There's a lot we don't know, and we don't know it because it's a new virus. That's why it's called novel coronavirus, right? And it may be months, it may be years before we have a full picture of what this virus is about, how it spreads, how it harms our bodies, the long-term after effects of infection. But the few things we do know now, it spreads through respiratory droplets. And one way to keep it from spreading from you to another person and from another person to you is to cover your respiratory droplet producers, which are your mouth and your nose. That's it. It's that simple. There's that. Wash your hands, keep your distance. In countries where people have adopted mask policies, not only has the spread of the virus been reduced, but it's been shown that the severity of the illness has been reduced because wearing a mask reduces the viral load that you get even if you do contract the infection. So put your masks on, people. Your kids are playing in the playground and you want them to go back to school. You got to wear a mask.
That's a great point. And just being a simple approach, I believe, has gotten us to this point. And it seems weekly we learn more of what we don't know about the virus or how it's mutating or different transmissions or, as you say, effects to the body. So just based on that, we need to be extra cautious. And I can tell you what the ramifications will be if we don't maintain these simple steps. Listening to Governor Cuomo today, he was threatening New York City to step back the reopening because of, and he was showing pictures on the screen of people in restaurants and bars that are just not complying. Yeah. And unfortunately, I think sometimes we have a short-term memory when it comes to things like this, and we felt like we dealt with it, and now we want to get past it. But we can easily revert back to where we were, and that would be such a terrible thing. So in terms of the police department, we'll continue to try and, enforce the simple things, the mask wearing, the social distancing, in the hopes that people become proactive and educated and take responsibility, not just for themselves, but for the people around them.
Yeah,
So,
thank you very much. I appreciate
welcome,
that. Next up on our agenda is a report from the fire chief, Chief Caparelli.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
The fire department has resumed the administration and enforcement of the New York State Fire Code by resuming the fire safety inspections at all local businesses and assembly occupancies in operation under Phase 4 COVID guidelines. The fire department personnel will begin with those occupancies which require a permit to operate due to an ongoing process which involves the public, cooking, cleaning, repairing, manufacturing, sales, and/or an occupancy of more than 50 persons. These are our priority right now. As more businesses open, we will expand the inspections to include all occupied spaces. Please be prepared for your inspection by having your fire extinguishers, fire alarms, fire sprinkler systems, cooking hoods and overcooking suppression systems, exit signs and lights inspected for proper operation. This will ensure a smooth process, and I thank you in advance for your cooperation. Marine 34, the fire department's watercraft, was mentioned at last month's June 15th board meeting as being in full operation, if you can remember. Well, on June 24th, not more than a week past that, at 12:24 p.m., a resident was collecting shells along Dog Beach at the far end by the Larchmont Shore Club when she dislocated her hip and fell into the water. The tide was rising at the time, so she was in danger of being in deeper water shortly thereafter. Personnel from the fire department, the Larchmont Police, Larchmont VAC, and the Shore Club all worked together to assist the patient while she remained in the rising water. There was no way to move her to dry ground and the awaiting ambulance, which was available due to her injuries. Marine 34 was brought in via the open water in short order, and she was placed on the backboard on the deck of the boat, transported to awaiting personnel on a nearby dock for transport to the hospital. This was the first time the fire department watercraft was used in an emergency situation, and it performed as it was expected. I would like to thank all those involved and report to you that this was a well-coordinated joint effort to assist a resident in need. I have received 3 applications for membership into the volunteer staff, 1 Larchmont resident who is home from college, 2 New Rochelle residents. The applications are in the final stages of vetting and will be presented to the board for approval at the next village board meeting. And finally, as with any industry, technology advances new equipment, and what you need to know about the new smoke alarms. For years, the fire service has been responding to multiple false alarms due to activated smoke alarms set off by cooking, steam from the shower, or another non-hazardous cause. The new UL 217 smoke alarm standard is in effect, almost. Basically, the new smoke alarms must alarm when there is a fire, but cannot alarm for nuisance smoke. So it must alarm for a flaming polyurethane foam sofa cushion, but not for smoking burger on the stove, which happens all the time. It'll take years for the technology to cycle out of every home, but when you change your clocks every spring and fall and change your batteries in the smoke detectors, instead of changing your batteries, you could change the whole smoke detector. Look for the words on the label that says helps reduce cooking nuisance alarms beneath the UL label when purchasing a new device. But as I said, due to the COVID, the kickoff date was extended to June of 2021 for this change. Switching to my role as code enforcement officer, I'd like to remind residents may have noticed that I've been placing reminders on their doors regarding organic waste placed out for collection on the wrong day, hedges, trees, and shrubbery blocking signage, sidewalks, and intersections, and water discharging into the roadway from their properties. I will continue to notify residents in violation of these village codes, but corrective action must be taken before a serious incident occurs. Village Code 215-27 allows for a reasonable amount of time to correct the violation. I will issue final notices in the coming months, after which violations and appearance tickets will be issued. I urge residents to maintain their properties to ensure safe access to sidewalks, safe visible crossings at intersections, and eliminate water discharge to avoid flooding in the summer and icing in the winter. I've also been enforcing, as the chief mentioned, the leaf blower ban as best that I could, monitoring the outdoor dining in the business district to ensure compliance with COVID restrictions and guidelines, and distributing facial coverings is all ongoing. And that completes my report. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Chief, I have a quick one. Is there any way that those 3 applications could get vetted to the board sooner than later?
I'm waiting for the background checks to come back. I have 2 background checks, but one I'm waiting for. I haven't gotten it back yet. That is the last piece of the puzzle. Once that's done, I could give all 3 to the board at once.
That'd be great, because I know they're very excited about becoming firefighters.
Yep.
Thank you.
Keith, do you have any idea if the smoke detectors that are installed by surveillance isn't the right word, but companies like ADT, et cetera, that hardwired security systems, do they comply or do they have the right equipment yet?
These are not due to come out, well, they're coming out piecemeal right now. They're not due to be out in full force until June of 2021 due to the COVID virus. I guess the manufacturing and the distribution has been slow to start. But it's a good start because that is one of our biggest problems. An activated smoke alarm due to steam from the shower, cooking, a lot of it is cooking, and that will eliminate a lot of the false alarms.
Right. Well, I that's happened to me at least 3 times.
Yeah.
So in the years that I've had the alarm system. So but once it was actually electrical wire. So and on that instance, the alarm didn't go off.
The smoke alarm didn't go off.
It did not. So we had to call it in. So there you, I don't know what that says. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Next up, we have on the agenda is the attorney report. Mr. Stout?
Nothing for this meeting, Mayor.
Thank you very much. Number 7 is the treasurer's report. The treasurer is on vacation right now, so she's not with us this evening for the meeting. And we'll get to number 8, trustee reports. So I'll start with Trustee Herman.
We have 2 new Parks and Trees co-chairs who have jumped in feet first, and Parks and Trees is working very closely with FULP and the staff and the board, and as what you well know, to get Constitution Park through its last paces, and looking to see if we can have some sort of ribbon cutting opening perhaps in September, but they are all over it. And I'll wait till the administrator's report. I do have some questions about the audit, which come through finance and budget, and my role as trustee liaison to all things financial.
Good, great, thank you. Yeah, we're happy to have our new 2 co-chairs on Parks and Trees. And we thank our former co-chairs, Anne and Tony, for all their many years of service. And I just sent to all of you a letter from the Arbor Day Foundation, naming Larchmont yet again Tree City USA for 2019. I think it's 30, I forget how many years now in a row, 34 or so years in a row. And it's a testament to the Parks and Trees Committee and their dedication to street trees and park trees in the village. Trustee Froman.
You're muted.
As I've been reporting recently, the Historic Preservation Survey has been ongoing, and despite the limitations that the pandemic has placed on the ability of the surveyors to get out and document a lot of things, I have seen some preliminary work and things are moving along, and we hope to have a preliminary report early in September.
Oh, okay, very good. We look forward to that. It'd be interesting to see what they've been able to accomplish.
It's actually quite impressive.
Yeah, good. Trustee Bauer.
Not much to report this evening, just that the library is slowly starting to open up and have in-person hours. So if you are interested in going back to the library, please check their website to see how that's all going to work and what's available. And I think you might have to reserve a time slot.
It is suggested, yes. Thinking of your environmental committee, we will have a draft local law to be looking at for discussion, certainly prior to our August board meeting. And Trustee Finelli.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Couple things. Recreation news, the Village of Larchmont has canceled the Flint Park Summer Camp. we put together an offering of programs at Flint Park for children ages 1 through 8, grades 1 through 8. Each program is run by an outside vendor and requires separate registration via the link/contact information. There's a variety of programs from music and art, Creative Corner, DIY Slime, One River School of Art, Plaster Palace, Summertime Crafts, Rock in the Park, Performing Arts Larchmont. Quite an array. There's also a nature program from the Sheldrake Environmental Center that will take place at Flint Park. In sports and fitness, we've got kids yoga and mindfulness, Balance Kids. There's a summertime racket club sponsored by New Rochelle Racket Club, Next Level Camp, basketball clinics, as well as just-in-time baseball team fit club, the Cross Club, and Next Level Football Clinic. A lot of activities for all types of children. Go to villageoflarchmont.org for all the information you'll need for times, dates, and costs. The tennis courts are open. The Recreation Department is allowing double tennis. There are 6 courts in Flint Park. All of them are ready to be played on. You must have a permit to play. When you purchase your permit, the system will allow you to make a reservation. Your confirmation receipt will be your permit. There will be attendants at the courts for any information you may need. They will also be checking for permits. So please come play, but have your permit in hand. There are tennis lessons available in Flint Park. This is in conjunction with the New Rochelle Racket Club. There are kids and adult lessons. For further information, go to our website, villageoflarchmont.org. Remember that website. It's a great website to know. It's got all the info you need. The Village of Larchmont with ORCA, an organization out of the Mamaroneck High School, will be holding a movie night on Thursday, August 5th, 2020, at Flint Park, near the Playhouse. The first movie is a kids' film. It will start at 7:45 p.m. It's the Trolls World Tour movie. And the second movie is Baby Driver. That will start at 9:45 p.m. Great for teens and adults. Check out One Larchmont for more information. I want to thank Zachary Schwab, who's worked really hard to put this together. He's a junior at MHS. The fundraising is for all the merchants in the village. And it's a great cause to bring money back to the village for the merchants that might be a little strapped.
Trustee Finelli, can we just check that date again?
It's Wednesday the 5th. That's a change.
Wednesday the 5th. Okay,
It used
thank
to
you.
be the 6th, but the movies aren't available.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
Both the films are family friendly. We will be participating social distancing. Please wear your mask, and refreshments will be available.
And how are we handling entry and
Well, we're hoping at this time, we're meeting on Wednesday, but we're hoping at this time it'll all be done online. As you know, it's at this time, it's 50 people or so. We may, with families, bump it up a little bit, but not much. And we're talking about doing something with the circles, on the ground. But then we said, you know what, people may just want to get farther away. So we'll talk about that on Wednesday and see how that goes.
I would suggest that there be a conversation.
I lost you.
Do you hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. I would suggest that there be a conversation, perhaps bring Rick and Justin into this part of the conversation and see if there's some way to make an enclosed space, either with horses or
We talked about that. with
tape,
Ron.
etc., so that once you've reached your capacity, you can.
Sure. Well, we talked about more for safety than anything else, so that the kids wouldn't run out into the street. So we do want to do an enclosure, and we will have that conversations once we lock up exactly where it's going to take place, and that sort of thing. Details to follow.
Okay.
And my last thing is, if you're interested in joining the Larchmont Fire Department, volunteers are needed. We are looking for new members. As the chief had commented earlier, we had three new members sign up. Very excited to be firefighters, and they're really looking forward to being a part of the village of Larchmont. And if you don't know, it's a great place to meet young and older folks. Looking for some of the youth to get involved. If you're home with nothing going on out of school and you want to meet a great bunch of people, help out the community, this is the place to be. 914-403-2387. That's my cell number. Please feel free to give me a call. We'll get you a tour of the facility and get you signed up. That's it for me, Mayor. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Next up, number 9, administrator report.
I have no report, Mayor, but Carol had a question.
Yep. Thanks, Justin. I did get a series of questions today from Michael Gottfried. I had asked them these same questions of the mayor earlier in the day. I understand you might have some information, even though Kimberly is on vacation. Basically, the questions cover the audit. So when will the audit be finally finished without any conditions? When will it be posted on the Emma website? And when and in what form will the auditors be presenting their findings to the board? So if you have any insight in any of that, please let us know now, and we'll follow up on other things if you don't.
Sure. I mean, just high level, I got involved last week with some final information the auditors were looking for with regarding to potential litigation or lawsuits, basically, damages we might have to come up with. We got the information back from our labor attorney. They were satisfied. They prepared a draft letter for Kimberly and my signature. So as far as I understand it, that's the last leg of what the auditors needed to complete the audit. So when Kimberly's back in the office, we'll both review it, countersign it, and send it back to them. And then I don't know when it's going to be posted. It's going to be completed, and then the board will be presented it as it normally is. The auditors will come into a work session, and they will review the key points of the audit and review the information with the board. And generally, the board invites the finance committee to that meeting. So it'll be similar in years past. It's just a matter of scheduling at this point. But as far as I understand it, there are no more issues with regard to information gathering. Now it's just finalizing it and distributing it. So we're at the finish line.
Great. And Kimberly will be back in the office Thursday this week?
Yes.
Okay, great. I'll follow up then. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Carol. Number 10 on the agenda are resolutions that were set at previous work sessions. So these were all at our work session last week. We rescinded previous resolution to turn over the village elections to the county board of elections. We also rescinded a resolution changing the date of the village election from March to November. And then we passed a new resolution turning over village elections to the county board of elections and changing and a new resolution changing the village election date from March to November, which will go to a referendum at the next village elections. At this point, we expect that to be the September 15th village election, unless for some reason the elections are postponed yet again by the state, which we don't anticipate. And those were the 4 resolutions that were done at the previous work session. I believe we have, we are now at the number 11. Here are those persons who wish to address the board. Rob, we have a hand up from Steve Lipkin, who's had his hand up for a bit. If you could please unmute Steve so he can ask his question. We're having trouble. Rob, are you able to unmute Stephen Lipkin?
There he goes.
He's able to speak. He has not unmuted himself.
Stephen, unmute yourself if you want to ask a question. Okay, we'll wait and see if he comes on. We have a hand raised by Gary. So if we have a question from Gary.
Good evening, Mayor. This is Gary Hirsch. Can you see me, hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, I don't know why you can't see me, but maybe we're all better off. Good evening, Mayor, members of the board, Attorney Stout. Appreciate this opportunity. As you know, the saga of Central continues. A little over 3 months ago, we filed a complete special permit application with the village with the anticipation of it moving along on an expeditious basis, as it had been a thoroughly vetted project. We have been told several times that we would have an opportunity to present the application to the Board of Trustees for their consideration. As recently as last Friday, we were told that we would be on the agenda for this evening. We're very disappointed that this process has not moved along in any visible way. And we would appreciate, for the benefit of the community and frankly for us, if the members of the board and the mayor would consider moving towards both a special meeting and a public hearing to consider our application. And if not, if you would explain to us why not.
I believe, as we discussed at our work session last week, that the public hearing for the special permit, we would need to have a referral memo back from the planning board. I think that might be the last. I'm going to ask Attorney Stout to unmute himself so he can join in. I believe the last item that we're waiting on would be the memo from the planning board, and if there's any memo, follow-up memo from Pat Cleary from the planning board meeting, which was just this past Thursday night. I understand today that an engineering report from that meeting was made available to the public. The board still needs to look at that. So we have to have those documents in hand before we move to the public hearing for the special permit. But what I did say was that as soon as we had all those documents in hand, we would set the date for a public hearing. It won't need to wait until our next scheduled meeting. Attorney Stout, is there any, am I misstating anything here, or is?
No,
there
but
anything-
that's fine. I think I conveyed that information to Mr. Hirsch's attorney earlier today. I know I did. And I expect you're going to have that planning board report within the next day or two at the most.
Okay, very good. So as soon as we have that document from the planning board, we'll confirm we have everything we need, and we'll hold a quick meeting to schedule. We have to schedule the public hearing at a public meeting.
Right.
And with a certain number of days notice. So we'll get all that done, and we won't have to wait for the regularly scheduled August meeting.
Yeah, Mayor, Jim, I heard you say earlier that you're probably going to be having a meeting in the next few days in any event. So I thought that maybe at that meeting you can schedule that public hearing.
We'll have a work session no later than Monday. That would be the latest date. So let's see how the timing goes this week with what we receive.
Thank you. And may I ask that when you receive public documents such as the engineering report, which we have not received, that be transmitted to us as well?
My understanding is that that engineering report was part of the planning board discussion on Thursday evening. Is that correct, Jim?
I don't know if the document was actually distributed at or prior to that meeting. But the answer is yes, Mr. Hirsch, you certainly,
yes.
Will, if it's been released to the public, we'll get you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm sorry about that. I assumed it was part of the conversation on Thursday night's planning board meeting. And I was made aware of it today, and it was posted on the village website on the Centro button page. Let me just check our participants list. We have no more hands, so I assume we have no one else who wishes to address the board. I'll give that a minute or two here, really a second or two. Anybody wants to raise their hand? Okay, I don't see any. Then we'll move on to approving the minutes of the meeting of June 15th. I seek a motion to approve the minutes of the meeting of June 15th.
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, thank you. And finally, number 13, the approval of the bills. I'll turn this
Mayor-
over to Trustee Herman.
Thank you. As we talked about earlier in the day, we are transitioning to a fully online bill review system. And we have worked on getting me access to review the bills. There's some technical glitches that we need to fix in the next day or two. We worked diligently today to try to unravel them. So what I suggest is that the approval of the bills be done at the next work session next Monday. And at that time, the board will see a list of bills that were already paid. They are routine bills, and we passed a resolution where we can do that. And then the bills that are due to be paid. So you'll see that next Monday. And hopefully we're doing this fully online.
Right. You know, it's a slow process, but it's definitely, we're marching in the right direction, and getting as much of our work process streamlined as possible.
Right.
So I appreciate your efforts and the efforts of the treasurer's staff to make this happen.
They've been terrific. And this started, even though we had the capability, it started because of COVID. So never let a good crisis go to waste.
Correct. Always look for the bright lining.
Right.
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 One last thing I wanted to mention at the beginning of the meeting is that I was going through some folders full of mail, and this little wooden carved heart was in an envelope sent to me with a note from Antonio Vinny Aversa of Aversa Woodcrafts in Larchmont, and it said, "Please accept this token of thanks for all you are doing for your community during these difficult times." And it's a little heart taped on here as a memento. And I just want to thank Mr. Aversa for sending this. It definitely put a smile on my face. And, you know, there's been a lot of difficult times in the last few months. And so it's certainly a very nice moment when someone reaches out in that kind of a way.
Absolutely.
We appreciate it. And that's it then. I seek a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for joining us. Good evening. And watch the village calendar. We will be setting a work session within the next couple of days, most likely for Monday.